Fikile Mbalula had to say in that briefing just earlier. Professor Dirk Kotzé is a political analyst with University of South Africa. Prof, great to have you with us on Daytime Update. And yeah, Fikile Mbalula tells us that, following the ANC's devastating decline in the elections last year, there were a number of options on the table of how it would proceed. It went into a government of national unity, but it always knew it was not going to be easy. And it certainly hasn't been, Prof.
Yes, indeed so. I think this is continuous birth pains, if I can call it that, of the coalition. Some will call it coalition, others will call it the government of national unity, or any of them. It is certainly very difficult. And I think one of the reasons for this, not the only one, but one of the main reasons is that they never had actually time to negotiate the foundation or the points of departure or the basic positions, policy positions of the government of national unity. If we go back to it, it was about 2 weeks that they had in order to do all the work in order to establish the government of national unity. And I think they are now seeing the results of that lack of preparation, that they couldn't reach a solid agreement or a solid foundation about on what matters do they agree, on which matters don't they agree, and how are they going to deal with situations where they don't agree with that. They have an internal dispute mechanism or dispute resolution mechanism that's chaired by the Deputy President. It was used in the case of the Bella Act, but in the end they also used, for example, negotiations at Netlock. So again, it is as if the different parties are still trying to find their feet. On top of that, there is this matter about whether the ANC is using the institutions like the Government of National Unity or other coalitions in the provinces in order to pretend as if they have still a majority. And I think this is one of the key problems, especially for the DA, that they feel that the ANC is in effect not acknowledging that they are not anymore a majority party. Still the biggest, but not past the 50% plus one. And that creates this sometimes tensions between them. But I think one should also acknowledge that in most instances so far, since June last year when it was established, they actually worked relatively well. But there were these moments that you refer to where there was problematic situations and where they clearly didn't see eye to eye on these issues.
Yeah, and I mean, Fikile Mbalula has said as much, right? He said a number of times in that briefing that the ANC is no longer in the majority, and he's talked about the laborious negotiations that have taken place for budget 2025-26, which have never happened before. Laborious, yes, maybe, but a good thing in the long run?
Yes, but only after the problem emerged. And that is that they had to postpone the first budget speech.
Right.
I think, and that is, I think, where the real issue started. And what is the issue for the DA is that they said that they went into the budget process, in a sense, blind, that they did not know that was in the pipeline. And the ANC on the other side, I think, is saying, but we are the biggest party in the coalition or in the government of national unity, and therefore we do have the right to do it. Our minister is the Minister of Finance, and therefore he has the right to do it. But I think what we are now seeing is that the way in which a coalition must function is very different from that of a majority party government. Mm-hmm. And that all these parties will have to accept or to come to an understanding or to an agreement, actually, of what that means and what it means in terms of internal consultations between the different parties. And then at what point the decision can be made. Remember, they've included in the declaration of intent or statement of intent that they can take decisions by a so-called sufficient consensus, and that is 60%. That means actually an agreement between the ANC and the DA. That's an official position of the government of national unity. But I think this is not sufficient in terms of how to deal with issues. And they haven't gone back actually to that particular agreement in the document in order to say, well, that's when we can take decisions.
Yeah.
So it is what the National Working Committee has now agreed on. Indeed, Fikile Mbalula calls it pushing the reset button, is possibly what I'm actually talking about. And that is going back and have a much better, much deeper look at all the different dynamics and functions and processes within the government of national unity.
Yeah, and Fikile Mbalula has said as much insofar as the statement of intent is concerned, right? He says it's not just about the statement of intent. If indeed the DA continues to stay in the GNU, the relationship needs to be governed by a set of rules that need to be determined. Even outside of the statement of intent, there has to be a set of rules. And what do you think those rules might need to be, Prof?
It's difficult to know exactly because, it's what they have actually said now is that they put actually the statement of intent aside now. Although the statement of intent is saying provide for dispute situations, as well as how to admit new members to the government of national unity. Now, I don't know if they are going to follow this. It's not clear from what he said today. But I think what it actually means is to save face from the side of the ANC, because strictly speaking, many people wanted to hear today to say that DA is out, that the ANC President Ramaphosa is going to dismiss them from the government and a new cabinet will be established. That didn't happen. So what is now the situation is actually of stepping back and trying to come to some form of compromise amongst all the parties. And I think this is possibly a way of what they were supposed to do in any case. But this is now a way in which they can get back from or away from the current dispute or difficult situation that they've, or some would say even crisis. And in order to say, well, we agree that we have to rethink what it is. I don't think it's going to be about renegotiating. It's rather about agree on more workable approaches, more workable procedures, more workable ways of dealing with differences of opinion within the government of national unity. Because he emphasized that the government of national unity is not a homogeneous unit. It's not something where everyone will always agree. But now they have to agree on what happens when there is disagreement, and clearly they don't have yet such an understanding.
Certainly, and just as a parting shot from the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula says the ANC remains committed to the government of national unity, but he also says the GNU can exist with other parties. At the same time, he says South Africa can't afford a governance paralysis. The GNU is a tactical investment. It is a shield against chaos. So I think sort of double speak there from Fikile Mbalula. He's saying, yes, we want it to work. We want you to stay. But if you don't, we can make it work with other parties. Professor Dirk Kotzé, that's all the time we have for this discussion. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. He's a political analyst with Unisa.